we're talking about security issues, ma'am, as you know, Pakistan is fighting a full-fledged war against Taliban and terrorist networks on its own soil. South Waziristan operation is a case in point.
Right.
And we are bearing its cost as well. More than 250 people have died in this month as we speak because of suicide bombings in our towns and cities. Peshawar blast, you must have heard today. The question which arises in my mind, and actually it agitates most of the Pakistani people's mind, that there are disturbing reports that on Pak-Afghan border, which is adjacent to South Waziristan, several NATO checkposts, they have been vacated. People ask why? Because America has always been demanding from Pakistan to do more, to stop cross-border movement from Pakistan side to Afghanistan side. Pakistan should fence its border, but now what we are seeing, that the NATO forces which are on the one border side, they have vacated posts and they're not checking, I think so, the cross-border movement. So why is it so? Why there is inaction on part of NATO? Why don't the NATO forces seal the border? Because then it will hamper our Operation Rahe-Nijat. And last day I was reading the statement of Chief of Army Staff. He even said that Pakistan is linking the success in Operation Rahe-Nijat with its effort to curb militancy and terrorism in Pakistan. And the second question is that on 24th April, you while testifying before the Congressional Committee, you said that US was partly responsible for the present mess as it virtually abandoned Pakistan after the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan. So the question is, when there is a realization, and we welcome it, that you have said in your opening statement that US want to turn a new page in Pakistan-US relations. When there is realization, why there is a lack of action? Why don't you give Pakistan, provide financial and military assistance without any conditions?
Anwar, thanks. Yes, Secretary.
Well, first of all, you're right. I did say that because I'm trying to be as clear and accurate as I can. And the United States, in my opinion, bears some of the responsibility for the difficulties that you are now confronting. And we have a commitment to assist in trying to root out the groups that both the United States and Pakistan created, funded, and used to drive the Soviet Union out of Afghanistan. We were partners in that. We were successful. Unfortunately, the aftermath is something that you have been having to deal with, and that's why we want to be, more helpful and assist you in being successful. We have given billions and billions of dollars in aid where there is no misinterpretation with no conditions. I mean, go back and look at the record over the last years of the amount of money that we have been providing to Pakistan, primarily for security, as you know. And it was important for us to do that because you were on the front lines and we saw a common threat and wanted to respond. The civilian side, and I don't know about your parliament, but in our Congress, it's much easier to get money for military weapons than it is for schools. And so we've given billions of dollars with no conditions for military material. And we were very willing to do that, to help you. And you can explain that to a constituent. And you can say, we're supporting the Pakistani military and the Pakistani government in their fight against terrorism. And most people will say, fine. But when you say, oh, by the way, we also want to help strengthen Pakistan's democracy, and we want to help the people of Pakistan have the kind of lives that a democracy should deliver. So we want to build schools and health clinics and infrastructure and energy plants and tube wells so that farmers can get more irrigation. That's a harder sell. Because the average person sitting in America will say, well, I need a new school. My hospital's run down. So what we have historically done, and this is not about Pakistan, this is about the civilian side of aid, is to say we will make sure that the money is being put to good use. That's what I think
Madam
you call
Secretary, there is only one.
And the check posts. I'm glad you asked that because I was asked that question when I did 2 interviews for Dawn and Geo before I came that I think are running today.
Yeah.
The fact is we are actually putting more troops on the border, but we are closing some of the isolated check posts that were indefensible. We have lost a number of our soldiers and Marines over the last year because they were in border outposts that were overrun. So we're trying to consolidate them. We're trying to have a different surveillance effort along the border, working with the Pakistani military. This is an evolving strategy. I don't know that anyone can close that border. That may be the most difficult border in the world to control or close. But we're trying to use new technology and new counterinsurgency methods along with the Pakistani military to actually do a better job. And we're actually putting more troops, not fewer.
I want to go for the second round because we have very little time. Just want to pick up on the themes and Atka's question. When you talk of perceptions,
Yes.
it's not only Pakistan which has the negative perception in terms of media, but US media has very negative perception and stereotypes about Pakistan. Now, in terms of solutions, can State Department, because we see the Pentagon and State Department do not issue negative statements about Pakistan. It is the US media or the Congress.
They have had, they get it from
they
it.
leak them.
Yeah, they leak them. It's not like
Can
they cook
anything
them
be
up.
done to improve the relationship?
Sometimes it's leaked by State Department and the Defense Department.
Well, and sometimes it's just
if
the
I could
media.
just add one
No, media doesn't
two
cook
finger on that. You see
The media is never wrong.
No, they don't cook up.
Madam Secretary, I think it'll be unfair to judge the caliber of this debate with regard to one story that refuses to go away. Because I can quote you 20 bad stories, the kind of trash that appears in the American media about Pakistan. But now, if we were to use that as a measure of the substance of Pakistan-US ties and the debate around that, it'll be very unfair. So I guess let's leave that one story that refuses to go away, though there are question marks over that as well. We don't have answers to that. Some of the questions Hamid has already raised. You have thrown lots of numbers at us. Let me just tell you that one, I'm really confused about the US policy. For 10 years, you build a dictator, then you have an election, then you come back and tell Pakistani people now you want to build schools. So Pakistani public is a little confused that, a year ago, this very country was supporting and rolling out the red carpet for a dictator that this entire civil society was battling against. And now suddenly the US comes to us because there's a new administration and lectures us on democracy. I guess there is that larger perspective about the way US looks at Pakistan. But let me give you numbers. You talked about the civilian aid and the military aid. Your one base in Kyrgyzstan, you know how much Kyrgyzstan charges you? $700 million US dollars.
That's wrong.
700.
That's wrong. We negotiated the contract. I'm sorry, that is not right.
You negotiated it down. But
No.
they were charging you $700 million US dollars. Give us a figure on that.
$50 million.
$50 million per
$50
month.
million. No, I'm sorry, no, annually.
That's one air base. You know how many air bases US uses in Pakistan?
And do you know how many billions of
6.
dollars we provided to Pakistan?
All of that went under Musharraf into the civilian
Well, but let
treasury.
me just stop you here. The United States did not install Musharraf. That was the people.
You backed him, you supported him.
You know what,
George
I'm-
W. Bush lionized him.
No, well, George Bush is not my president right now.
But we deal with the US.
And both Musharraf
deal with government.
Musharraf and Bush are gone. I'm very happy about Bush being gone.
But he's
You're apparently
lecturing around
happy
in your
about Musharraf
country
being
about
gone.
democracy.
Well, so is Musharraf. He's in our country, and
I
he's
was
in
talking
Europe.
about Musharraf.
Okay,
But I think this is an important issue. Look, we can either argue about the past, which is always fun to do, but can't be changed, or we can decide we're going to shape a different future. Now, I vote that we shape a different future. And, I cannot take responsibility for everything that was done in your country. Just like you can't take responsibility for everything that's done in our country. But we can certainly try to chart a different course. Now, again, this is because I really believe it's the right thing to do. I think it is in our interest to do it. I think that Pakistan has an enormous potential. I personally was very pleased when democracy returned to Pakistan. And I want very much to support democracy because democracy in the long run is a more stable basis for governing people than these dictators.
A very short
Yes,
answer.
yes, yes.